Hello. Today's episode of Story Time with Sam, I'm going to be reading once again from my novella, Marina Fidelis, the large print edition. It's hot off the presses. I just got it printed up today. So, this is chapter 23, and I'm going to just start reading a little bit. Just a little bit. Okay. Regino runs out of his uncle's home and rides his bike back to Marina's house. Just as Regino pulls up to her home, he sees Clyde Perry's semi-truck parked in front of her house, and then he sees Clyde yelling at Marina. "What do you mean I have to leave?" Clyde yells. "You need to leave my house right now. I'm in love with someone else. I fell in love with him while you left me again, like you always leave." Marina screams with tears rolling down her eyes. Regino runs over to them and tries to intervene, but Marina pushes him aside. Clyde looks over to Regino and says, "What are you looking at, you little punk? You think you can run over upon me and steal my girl, huh? Do ya?" Clyde and Regino are in each other's face, and Marina tries to separate the two. Just as the yelling intensifies, Esther and her husband come out of their home, and her husband Matthew is on the phone ready to call the police. Esther loudly begins to speak in tongues and cast away all evil spirits in the neighborhood. Clyde begins to shove and push Regino, but he doesn't react. Then, just as Esther prays louder for the arguing to stop, her husband joins in, along with Maria praying in the spirit. Clyde Perry pulls out an old gun from his waistband behind his jeans. It is an antique that belonged to his great-great-grandfather, who fought in the Filipino-American War as a Marine. His great-great-grandfather said he used it to kill little brown monkeys in the Philippines. It was a Colt .45 revolver. "If I can't have her, nobody will," Clyde Perry says as he looks demonic as he utters those words. Clyde Perry pulls the gun out on Reggie and is about to blow Marina's face off with it. Regino remembers that what his grandfather Juanito used to say: "No matter how fast you are at martial arts, you cannot fight a bullet." Just as Clyde Perry pulls the trigger, is about to pull the trigger, Regino puts himself in front of the gun and places his hand in a sweeping motion. The old antique gun flips in the air, firing off, but out of the hands of the psychopath Clyde Perry. The old revolver lands on the lawn, still smoking. Clyde Perry runs off and says, "We ain't finished here, you little punk." He gets in his semi-truck and hauls it out of Marina's front yard. Nearly 68 minutes go by before the police show up. When they do, everyone in the neighborhood is interviewed, especially Regino. Now, this again was taken from my book, Marina Fidelis. Some people are saying, "Hey, you're doing too much of these little interviews. They don't have to read the book. They don't have to buy the book. They'll just have to listen to your videos." But I do want to say the fact that it's a good book because it's you get to the end, you'll find out who Marina Fidelis is, and you'll get a good enjoyment from that. What I do want to stress to the fact is, some people have asked me, why is it written in this manner? And all I could tell you guys is the fact is, I wrote it from perspective of Marina's daughter, the baby girl who's not even 2 years old yet, Regino Elustrado. And when you get a chance to read the book, yeah, that's not his daughter by blood, but it is his stepdaughter. So you see in, I think, chapter 12 or so, where she changed her name when she was 15. So what it is it's similar to what and there's another thing I have to go along with that. It's similar to the fact is somebody said, "Hey, a Colt .45 is not a revolver; it's a handgun." And yeah, that I wrote it, like I said, I wrote it from the perspective of a 17-year-old high school girl who doesn't. Not to say that girls don't know handguns, but I'm just saying that this particular girl doesn't know particular things. That's why things in the novel are phrased the way they are. Why certain things, the grammar or the punctuations might be the wrong spot. I look at it from perspective that Siobhan wrote this book. Siobhan Perry Ilustrado, even though her character is not named Perry, she wrote it from the perspective that this was a high school class essay that she was supposed to write about her family. She wrote about her mom. She wrote about her stepdad. She wrote about her dad, her physically abusive dad, but she put it in the third person perspective as much as possible. And I look at it this way, that people are going to see, okay, what kind of grade did Siobhan get from this? Was her what kind of grade did she get out of this? Did she get an A+ for it was the best creative writing project essay that she had to write? Was this a or was it lower? Was it a B-? Did she get a B- on instead? Because of the punctuation, the grammar was in the wrong place. Details were mixed up. She should have put handgun instead of saying revolver. Other things to go along with this is the fact is that this story is set in the future. She's taught. I look at it from the perspective of similar to my my grandmother. I never physically knew my grandmother, grandmother Esperanza, or Grandma Hope, but I was told different stories about her, and that's sort of the same thing. 20 years being removed from that situation, you can kind of fill in the gaps where your imagination takes place, where things happen. What happens is the fact is that Siobhan is filling in those gaps in the story, also in her mind, of where her mom was emotionally, where her stepdad was emotionally when he was trying to get involved with her, where her father was when he tried to kill her, when he tried to kill her mom. Things happened with my own family's life, my grandparents' life, that I was years removed, maybe between 20 to 30, 40, 30 years removed from some of the incidents that happened in my grandmother's life, in my grandfather's life. The stories of my grandfather Regino, the real Regino, who wasn't named Elustrado, was named Ilustrísimo, but the real Regino. You look online and you read the stories of what Daniel Santos' book said. He doesn't make up stuff. One thing my grandfather, the stories of the crazy stuff that went on with him attacking gamblers that cheated him with his escrima sticks. Other stories, you're somewhere in Stockton in the late 70s, early 70s, where he was going through some stuff where he basically, even as an older man, he was still up on his game as far as martial arts, escrima went. What I want to stress is the fact is that this is a book not about ego. It's not supposed to be about ego. It's supposed to be about one thing, and the relationship you have with Jesus Christ is very crucial. If you can't see it after reading this book, what this is supposed to be about, it's people kept asking me. They say, "What is this book about? Is it about is it a love story? Is it a story of domestic violence? Is it a story about martial arts?" And I tell them, it's about the one and only. It's about Jesus. If you can't get that after reading this book, you have to go back again and reread it, and just remember that He's our Savior no matter what we've done in our life, what we've done in our past, that He's there to pick up the pieces. When we're wrong, He's there to comfort us. Just as it goes on in some other chapters where it talks about Marina, and she, her name is Sundang. Sundang is a Visayan word. It's a Filipino word, but it's specifically from the Visayan dialect, which means sword or knife. Now she's a sword. But as the novel says, she's a dull sword. She's not sharp on her game. She's basically been taken advantage of over and over again by her ex-boyfriend, circumstances in her life. She's and I was reading, I put that into my novel from the book of Jeremiah about rest for the sword. Rest for her. She's a sword, and the only person that can give her that rest is JC. I probably already ruined it, but you're gonna get a kick out of this book if you get a chance to. God is good. He's a magnificent God that will show us. He'll show us when and how, and He'll show us different things needed that that we need in this life, and our spiritual self is the most important. You know, we have more of a spiritual side than we do a physical side. And what you have to remember is the fact is we're made in the image of God, but a lot of times what happens is the fact is we can get so cloudy. Like Marina, what happened to Marina? She was physically abused from a young age. She was beat up by her own father. What happened later on? She carried out her relationship with her ex-boyfriend. She carried it on, and she allowed him to, that cycle of abuse to continue on. This is supposed to be a 3-part series, a trilogy. This is Marina's fella. The second part, I'm still deciding on a name. I've thought of The Courtship of Regino Elustrado as the second book. That probably my Empire Strikes Back. And the third book, which I plan to do in probably about 30 years. You know, maybe if the Lord tarries, in about 30 years, I like to finish it off with the redemption of Clyde Perry. That will be something else. For the guys who, after you guys finish reading this book, you're not going to like Clyde Perry. You know, the character, the perspective of his own daughter, who was a character that was supposed to be for that project that wrote, you know, this book. She doesn't like Clyde Perry, but I feel in my heart that I'll tell you a little bit about Clyde Perry's, the redemption of Clyde Perry. That story, I want that to take place in 30 years from now, 40 years from now. No, actually more, about 60 to 70 years now, 70 years from now, where Clyde Perry has realized the errors of his way, and he's about to do what a lot of 12-step programs. He gives his life to the Lord, and he's about to embark on a journey of redemption and asking people forgiveness. A lot of 12-step programs have something called your 7th step or your 8th step, where you have to go and apologize to those people that you've hurt, people that you've burned. That story is going to be interesting because who knows? I mean, this is a man that basically pulled a gun out on our main protagonist, Regino Elustrado. This is a man who tried to blow off the head of his ex-girlfriend, his baby mama. He tried to kill her. So how that story goes, it ties along to what I read earlier with chapter 23 of what Clyde Perry did earlier. But that's for another time, another day. But like I said, this has been Story Time with Sam. If you get a chance, read the book. This is a very good book, hot off the presses, right on Amazon.com. Got my little picture right there, Where's my picture at? All right, see the little picture of Sam. Hey, I'm Sam. Anyway, you guys have a good day. No matter what happens, you know, be cool. All right, God bless, guys.